everybody, it's Larry Lursey. I'm really excited about this month's software. It's a new HDR program that Macphun and Trey Ratcliff have come out with called Aurora HDR. And if you know anything at all about HDR, you certainly know about Trey Ratcliff. He's one of the pioneers of that field and does some fantastic images. And he's come out with this software that is really cool. And I think we'll just jump right on in. Let me show you what it does. Okay, so when you pull up Aurora, you'll get this little screen here, and you've got two choices. One is loading images, where you just basically drag your own image in there, or it's got this load sample images, which is kind of a cool thing. The first time I saw that, I was like, well, what's sample images? And the cool thing about this is if you want to just kind of play along or follow along with this tutorial, you can download Aurora yourself for the demo and just grab these sample images. So what it'll do is if you want to learn how to use this software and you just don't have any good HDR images to work with, you have to use one of Trey's. So first thing that comes up is going to show you these images. Said these are the three sample images we're going to pull in. You've got an alignment click there. If you were doing it handheld and you think the images need to be aligned, you can click that. We got ghost reduction if there's things moving and you're worried about cars moving and things like that. We'll go ahead and click that for this one since we've got some streets. And then chromatic aberration, if you're shooting in the sun, sometimes you get those purple and green edges on things, and this will fix that. But let's go ahead and hit Create HDR. It's going to show this, going to kind of show the reference image. Hit Create HDR. Now, once the image actually opens up in the program, this is where the real fun begins. For one, up here, you've got some information up here on the exposure. You had 3 images, +2, -2. The ISO, lens, and all that type of information. So this is really cool. And so I usually, you've got basic stuff up here about how you want to view this, how much you want to zoom in on it. You can do a half and half thing where one half is the original image, and then one half being the effect. But I would advise you to start right down here in the corner with the presets. You'll notice all these presets running along the bottom, and it's already selected some here. And you can go into, by clicking this little down arrow, there's different categories, and some of these come with it. Some of them are ones that you can purchase and things like that. But we'll go ahead and start with the basic ones, and it's going to show them across the bottom. And you can simply either look at the thumbnail or you just click on one, and this up here will be adjusted to show you what it looks like. So far, so easy, right? Let's go to Trey's here and look at some of these. And a lot of times, just grabbing one of these presets is going to be all you need to do. And if that's all there is to it, then you are on your way and you're, I guess, done with this tutorial. But I'm going to show you how to dig in a little bit deeper. If you find one that you kind of like, but it's not quite what you were looking for, then we'll kind of work through that. So let's go back to basics. And let's pick out realistic here. Let's take a realistic one and maybe make it less realistic. So here we go. So here's what the basic realistic gives us. So then we jump over here to all these different things we've got up here. You've got your histogram up here, of course. You've got a little layers palette, which is really cool. We're not even in Photoshop right now. We're just in Aurora. But you can add layers to things. You've got your original image here. You can hit the plus sign and add another layer on top. And so, for example, let's call this one detailed. And then on this top layer, we run this really detailed preset. And you can see turning that layer off and on, just like in Photoshop. We can go in, we can change the opacity of it. You can change the blending mode. You can say, what would it be like in overlay mode? Really cool that you can play around with these layers like this. But let's go ahead and hit the minus sign. Get rid of that and go back to just our original. Keep things simple. So you've got those layers that you can work with, certainly, if you want to do it all in this program. You don't really even need to involve Photoshop. If you're comfortable in Photoshop and you want to just kind of do an HDR level and then bring it back in, you can do that as well. But when you get here in the tools section, this is where the crazy stuff gets going. And I usually kind of start here in the structure area. Let's get back up here. Click on structure again. There you go. Got rid of it. And this is where that kind of HDR look comes from. And it's how much of, if you want just a basic place to start, just tweaking up the amount of the HDR or even the boost. You'll start seeing that here in the image. It'll start having a much more pronounced effect. Now you've got your detail here. It's all pretty self-explanatory, and honestly a lot of it is just going through playing with the presets and deciding which ones you like and how you want to tweak them. But we'll go in, we'll add a little more detail to it, and let's just kind of do a before and after. There was the before. So we're starting to get a little more grit to it there. You've got your tone up here. I think the smart tone is what I will use a lot just because it kind of simplifies things. But if you want to go in and tweak highlights a little bit, tweak shadows, it's all in here. And it's one of those things that sometimes you try things and you may not like it, you just slide it back to where it was. Now one of the things you will notice is you'll start getting some noise at some point. And you've got this denoise in here, which is really nice. I'm just going to crank it up just so you can see what it does. It'll kind of flatten some things out. But and this image is really nice. I mean, it doesn't have a whole lot of noise in it, but it's not uncommon at all. I know a lot of my images will have a bunch of noise if I don't watch my ISO. So sometimes that noise works for you as well. But it's there if you need it. You can smooth out. A lot of these are all terms that you've seen in individual plugins, either through Topaz or some of the other people that do these type plugins. And so what I love about this is that it's all, you've got color, you've got detail, you've got it all separated out into different sections where you can go in and hit it. You can add colors. Say we want to just add some red in here. You could go and pump up the saturation like that. Whatever you want to do. Here's a little vignetting. You can put around the edge. And you can see it's just a whole bunch of different things to do. It's just a matter of how much you want to dig into this thing. But once you get it set how you want it, what you can do is let's go and just tweak a couple more things here while we have it up. I'm going to take the HDR up just a little bit more, kind of give it a real HDR type look, almost too much of an HDR look, but for the purpose of our demonstration. So there's a before and an after. One thing you might like as well is this glow on a shot like this. Sometimes it gives it just a little more of that dreamy type look, which is nice when you've already got the HDR giving you some grit and some detail. I found that this glow will sometimes go back and offset that a little bit and not make it look so HDR-y, but give it, really these golden lights through here really give it a nice, almost painterly type feeling through there. So I think that the glow works really well on those. But once you get it how you like it, you go down here to your presets, and what I usually recommend, well, you can go up here for starters. You can just save it right up here. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and save this preset. Let's say that I really like this look, and I want to be able to, I've got other shots that I did of this city that I want to try and apply the same preset to. You just go here and hit this little plus button, and we can name it. I'm going to just call it PMM City. Create new preset. There we go. Now, when I go here to the user section, there's the PMM City. Here's another one I did a while back called Punchy. We can switch over to that, decide if we like that better, or do we like the city one better. Kind of depends on your personal taste. Once you get it how you like it, then you come up here and you can export it to, you've got all these different, if you wanted to email it and text it to somebody, that type thing. I will typically come right down here and open it in Photoshop. Then here it is. We're in Photoshop. We've got our layers. We can go in and do whatever we want to it to further tweak and enhance it, or run it through another filter, or whatever we want to do. So that's the basics there. Let's jump back in and try one more. All right, so this time I'm going to just drag, I've got a raw file. We're just going to do one from just a single image. Not even, you can drag in multiple images, of course, but what's cool about this is you can also just do it from a single image. And we'll take this one here. I'm not worried about any chromatic aberration. Hit Create HDR. And so, sometimes you're somewhere and you forget to bracket, or you've got an image you took a while back and you want to kind of give it that HDR look. You can do it from a just one of these raw files like this, and see what it looks like. Now it's defaulting to the user presets because that's where we just were. And so interestingly enough, if we want to just take this PMM City profile we just did, we can apply it. Actually not too bad. Here's one I had called Punchy. Totally different looks. Kind of depends on the look that you're going for. But let's say you're not crazy about either of those. You'd come here to the architecture. Obviously you don't have to pick one. You could use a different category, but I'm just doing architecture because it seems the logical choice. And you can click the one. There's a bright. That's a very HDR kind of looking image. There's the strong HDR. Ooh, that's probably too much. I kind of like this architecture bright. Let's see what dramatic does. It's a little too dark. So got that one there right away. I think we're pretty close. You could come in here and say, you know what, I want a little more saturation to it. If you'd like to do that, you could come in and we could add a little of that glow that we did before. Kind of gives it up in there in those reflections. And then you could come in, you could say, you know what, I want maybe a little less HDR look. Dial it back a little bit. Just kind of get it how you like it. Again, once it's where you're happy with it, you either save that preset if you think you want to use it again, or you come right up here and drop it into Photoshop. Now, one of the things I like to do once I've got it back in Photoshop is I like to keep things on layers where I can go back and tweak the opacity and things like that if I think I've done too much. So I've got just the original capture here from just opening the raw file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one here, I'm going to hold down the shift button, drag this over so that it centers it up. And so you can see right here, the top is the Aurora. The bottom is the basic image. Now I'm going to rename this one. I'll put AU for Aurora, and then I will put the name of that preset, which was Bright Architecture. Just put Bright Arc like that. So that way if I want to go back and recreate it at some point, I know what I used and I don't have to try 10,000 different combinations until it's right. So this way, once I've done it on its own layer, I've got the ability to take this opacity here and I can take it down if I decide I've done too much and bring it into, even there, I think that's a lot more realistic look, but still way more exciting than that. So really quick and easy. And again, one of the things I love about it is if you're just happy with the presets, that's a really quick and easy solution to fixing up your images with the HDR look. If not, if you want to really get in and tweak things, you have that ability to go into just very detailed precision adjustments. So it's kind of one of those that you can make it as tough or as easy as you want, but I think it's a great tool, and you certainly should check it out. Try out the demo and see if you like it and play around with those sample images, and I think you will find it is one of the best HDR programs on the market right now. So I encourage you to take a look at it and let me know what kind of images you come up with. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye.